We tell ourselves we're rational creatures, that fear belongs to the dark corners of the past. But even today, a strange sound in an empty room can freeze our blood faster than any science can explain. Tonight, we're diving into urban legends that might be real. From ghostly children with black eyes to mysterious travelers from parallel worlds, these are the stories that blur the line between folklore and fact. Some were once dismissed as campfire tales, until police reports, witnesses, and even scientists began noticing patterns too eerie to ignore. And the deeper you go, the more you realize every legend starts somewhere. Let's begin with one of the creepiest ever told, a story that makes you afraid to sleep with your hand hanging off the bed. Humans can lick too. It starts like a harmless story. A girl home alone. Her loyal dog beside her, strange noises downstairs. Each time she grows nervous, she reaches down and feels her dog lick her hand. Comfort, reassurance, safety. Until morning, when she finds her dog dead and a note beside it, humans can lick too. The phrase has spread across Reddit horror podcasts and creepypasta sites for decades. It's an urban legend, yes, but one psychologists say taps into something real our brains need to reinterpret danger as comfort. According to a 2021 study in Frontiers in Psychology, the human mind tends to rationalize the unknown to avoid panic. Meaning, when something feels off, our brain invents safety before it accepts fear. That's what makes this story timeless. It's not about monsters, but the human instinct to trust what feels familiar, even when it's deadly. And if that didn't make your skin crawl, wait until you hear about the children with eyes as black as night. The black-eyed kids. Imagine a knock on your door at 3 a.m. and two kids are standing there. They speak politely. Their voices are calm. But something's wrong. Their eyes are pure black. That's the story behind the black-eyed children, a phenomenon reported since the 1990s. They ask to come inside, to use your phone, or to wait for their parents. Witnesses describe an overwhelming sense of terror, and those who let them in claim misfortune, followed illness, car crashes, or even disappearance. Skeptics call it sleep paralysis or false memory creation. But others point to an even stranger link: the way every culture has legends of dark-eyed spirits seeking entry. From the Celtic changeling children to Japanese yokai, the pattern is ancient. It's not just fear of the unknown, it's the primal fear of inviting it in. And if that doesn't already feel unsettling, Japan has its own version hiding in the last place you'd expect, a school bathroom. In Japan, there's one legend every schoolchild knows, whispered between giggles and gasps in dimly lit hallways. They say if you go to the third stall of the girls' bathroom, knock 3 times, and call her name Hanako-san, she might answer. Some see a little girl in a red skirt. Others hear a soft voice asking, "Do you want to play?" But those who disturb her too boldly might get pulled into the toilet, never to return. It sounds like playground horror until you realize how deeply it reflects Japan's real cultural memory. Hanako-san's story is said to originate during World War II, when air raids destroyed many schools. Children who died hiding in bathrooms became the seeds of the legend. Folklorists from the University of Tokyo note that post-war ghost stories often reflect collective trauma, serving as cultural therapy. Hanako isn't just a spirit, she's memory itself, haunting the spaces left behind by fear. But ghosts aren't the only intruders that test our nerves. Sometimes horror calls from much closer than we think. The babysitter and the man upstairs. A teenage babysitter puts the kids to bed. The phone rings. "Have you checked on the children?" At first she laughs it off, but the calls keep coming, more insistent, more disturbing. She contacts the police, who trace the call and deliver the nightmare twist. The calls are coming from inside the house. It's one of the most retold urban legends, ever so much that it inspired movies like When a Stranger Calls and Scream. But here's what's eerie. It's rooted in real crimes. In 1950, a case in Columbia, Missouri, involved a teenage babysitter murdered after a series of strange phone calls. The story spread like wildfire, evolving, mutating, and becoming a cautionary tale about the vulnerability of modern life. Psychologists say stories like this survive because they activate what's called the hypervigilance bias, an evolutionary trait that keeps us alert to unseen threats. Urban legends in that sense are mental fire drills for danger. And sometimes fear doesn't even need a human form, just the hint of something wild watching from the rooftops. The Monkey Man of Delhi. In the summer of 2001, chaos gripped Delhi. People claimed to see a creature part man, part monkey leaping across rooftops, scratching faces, even biting victims before vanishing into the night. Witnesses described glowing red eyes, metal claws, and incredible agility. Panic grew so fast that the government formed special patrols to hunt the so-called Monkey Man. To this day, no one knows what it was. Sociologists later described the event as a case of mass hysteria similar to the spring-heeled Jack sightings in 19th century London. But local folklore experts argue that the myth tapped into something deeper. The ancient Hindu symbolism of Vanara, the monkey-like beings of divine mischief. Was it fear myth or something that blurred both? Either way, Delhi learned what every culture eventually does. Legends don't just appear, they erupt from collective anxiety. And in 1950s, Japan, one man's anxiety turned into something even more unexplainable when he arrived at an airport. From a country that didn't exist. Tokyo 1954. Airport security stops a traveller at Haneda Airport. His passport looks real complete with stamps, visas, and a home country listed as Taured. There's just one problem: Taured doesn't exist. The man insists it does, located between France and Spain near Andorra. He even points to it on a map, frustrated that officials don't know their own geography. His documents match no known template. His company, unknown. His hotel reservation confirmed until he vanishes overnight from his guarded hotel room, taking his briefcase and passport with him. No one ever sees him again. Some say it's an early case of interdimensional travel, an accidental visitor from a parallel Earth. Others suggest a Cold War spy operation cloaked in mystery. But quantum physicists see a different angle. The story mirrors real theories like the many worlds interpretation proposed by Hugh Everett in 1957, which suggests every decision splits reality into infinite versions. Could a man have slipped through the wrong version of Earth? We can't prove it, but the man from Taured remains a perfect metaphor for how human minds grapple with the impossible. When logic fails, story steps in. And speaking of stories, Hawaii has one that still chills locals to this day, where the dead don't just rest, they march. The night marches. On moonless nights in the Hawaiian Islands, residents sometimes whisper about hearing drums low, rhythmic and distant. Then they see torches floating in a long line across the valley. Those are the night marches, the spectral spirits of ancient Hawaiian warriors. They march in formation led by chiefs and kings, reenacting journeys to sacred sites. Their feet never touch the ground, yet their chants shake the air. Legend says if you look at them, you die. The only way to survive: lay face down in the dirt and show respect, or if you're lucky, one marcher may recognize you as a descendant and spare you. Anthropologists have noted the deep cultural roots of this tale. Hawaiians believe that mana spiritual energy must be respected even after death. The marchers in that sense are guardians of sacred power, not monsters. Still, countless eyewitness accounts describe glowing lines across ridges or ancient trails, sometimes verified by groups who swear they all saw the same thing. Whether spiritual or psychological, the night marches remind us of something primal, that memory itself can walk. But Hawaii isn't the only place haunted by malformed figures lurking in the dark. Across the forests of America, locals whisper about beings with enormous heads and the rage of outcasts. The Melon Heads. In rural parts of Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut, drivers still claim to see them, small humanoid figures with oversized swollen skulls darting between trees. According to legend, they were once children suffering from hydrocephalus, a real medical condition that causes fluid buildup in the brain. Abandoned and experimented on by a cruel doctor, they escaped into the woods and, over generations, became something else entirely. The Melon Heads now live in isolation, violently territorial, attacking trespassers who stray too far. The story's variations are countless. Some name the Dr. Crow, others Dr. Melon, but the core stays the same. Humans pushed too far by human cruelty. Folklorists say it's an allegory for fear of the other, of those society hides away. But others point to neurological fascination, how we equate deformity with danger. A bias evolution planted deep in our perception. Whatever the truth, the Melon Heads legend reminds us that sometimes monsters are just mirrors. And next, a story that flips that mirror entirely, when the monster in your house was never a statue at all. A babysitter spends the night watching two kids. Everything feels normal until she notices a life-sized clown statue in the corner of the living room. Its glassy eyes follow her as she moves. Creeped out, she calls the parents to ask if she can cover it up. The father's voice turns sharp. "Get the children. Leave the house. Now." They don't own a clown statue. When police arrive, they find the horrifying truth: a man dressed as a clown had been hiding in the house, pretending to be part of the decor. While this sounds like urban legend, similar real-life intrusions have occurred. People secretly living in attics, basements, even walls. Psychologists call it residential parasitism, cases of hidden squatters who blend into homes, sometimes for months. The clown statue story endures because it plays on two primal fears: the uncanny things that look human but aren't, and home invasion, the idea that safety itself can be an illusion. And speaking of uncanny, Japan gives us another doll so human it seems alive. Because, in a way, it might be. Okiku, the doll that grows human hair. In a temple in Hokkaido, Japan, sits a doll named Okiku. Her story began nearly a century ago when a young girl received her as a gift, then tragically died. Her grieving family placed the doll on an altar in remembrance. Over time, they noticed something impossible. The doll's short bob of black hair was growing. When monks later examined it, they confirmed the hair was human, and it kept lengthening, requiring regular trims. Today, the doll is still kept at Manenji Temple, where caretakers carefully maintain her. Scientists have studied similar cases, concluding that humidity static and keratin breakdown can make fibers appear to lengthen, yet none explain Okiku's continued growth after decades. Japanese folklorists suggest something else: Shinto belief in animism, where spirits can inhabit objects infused with emotion. The doll, they say, holds the essence of the child's soul. Whether science or spirit, Okiku remains a living question, one strand of hair at a time. And across the ocean, another legend turns stone into story one, written in the claw marks of giants. The legend of Devil's Tower. Rising 867 feet above the Wyoming Plains, Devil's Tower is one of the strangest rock formations on Earth. According to Native American tribes like the Kiowa and Lakota, it was formed when a group of girls chased by giant bears prayed to the Great Spirit for help. The earth rose beneath their feet, lifting them to safety while the bears' claws carved deep grooves down the sides. Geologists say it's the core of an ancient volcano, its outer layers eroded away. But the legend persists, blending geology and myth in a single breathtaking symbol. Today, some visitors report magnetic anomalies, glowing orbs. Even UFO sightings inspired partly by the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which made the tower a modern myth all over again. Every culture, it seems, gives the unknown a shape, sometimes in stone, sometimes in shadow. And few shadows are more unsettling than the one wearing a face that doesn't move. Los Angeles, 1970s. A woman walks into a hospital. Her white gown is drenched in blood. Her skin is pale, too pale. And her face? Blank. Completely still, her expression frozen like a mannequin. The staff rush to help, but something feels off. Her movements are stiff, unnatural, almost mechanical. Then, without warning, she attacks a nurse, revealing rows of sharp, needle-like teeth. Witnesses claim she smiled for the first time before vanishing into the night. The story spread quickly through hospitals and early forums known as the expressionless. Some believe she was an escaped experiment. Others say she was a human stripped of emotion, the physical embodiment of psychological numbness. Psychologists interpret it differently. The tale emerged in the late Cold War era, when paranoia about government experiments and lost humanity ran high. The faceless woman isn't just a monster, she's a mirror of our fear of losing what makes us human. But not every horror hides behind human skin. Sometimes it's what nature leaves behind, a mystery inside a hollow tree. The skeleton in the tree, 1943. Hagley Woods, England. 4 boys discover a hollow elm tree, and inside the remains of a woman. Authorities can't identify her, but months later, graffiti starts appearing around town. Who put Bella in the witch elm? The writing appears again and again over decades. The woman nicknamed Bella becomes a ghostly figure of World War II folklore. Some say she was a German spy. Others a witch or the victim of an occult ritual. Modern forensic re-examinations found signs of wartime clothing and possible strangulation, but no definitive answers. The mystery endures, blending crime and mythology until they're indistinguishable. Historians call it a perfect folkloric fusion when fact, fear, and story merge into a single legend too fascinating to die. And speaking of legends that blur reality and science, our next story begins in a hospital where death itself became toxic. The death of Gloria Ramirez, the toxic lady. Riverside, California, 94. When Gloria Ramirez, a 31-year-old woman battling cervical cancer, arrived in the ER, nurses noticed a strange oily sheen on her skin and a garlic-like smell in the air. Within minutes, several staff members fainted or vomited. The ER was evacuated. Gloria died that night. The media called her the toxic lady. An investigation revealed a bizarre chain reaction. A mixture of her medication, dimethyl sulfoxide, and oxygen in the body created dimethyl sulfate, a toxic compound that poisoned the air around her. Scientists from the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory confirmed it was a rare but natural chemical reaction, a tragic accidental phenomenon. Yet conspiracy theories blossomed: secret weapons, biotoxins, government experiments. The truth remains strange enough that a human body under rare conditions could literally become lethal. And finally, the most haunting experiment of all, one that tried to silence the senses to hear the voice of God. It began as a whisper on early internet forums, a story about a group of scientists who believed they could communicate with God. Their method: remove every sense that connected the mind to the world. According to the tale, the subject was a volunteer, a man who agreed to undergo complete sensory deprivation. No sight, no sound, no taste, no smell, no touch. At first he sat in silence. Days passed. Then he began speaking, claiming he could hear voices. Voices that weren't human. He described them as endless millions of beings all whispering at once. Then, after weeks of terror, he screamed that he'd seen the truth and begged for the experiment to stop. His final words, according to the report, were chilling. "This is the gateway, and it should never be opened." There's no record of the experiment ever happening. No lab notes, no names, no verification. Yet its imagery stuck because it echoes something real. Sensory deprivation research at Harvard and the US military during the 1950s did show that isolation can cause hallucinations, voice hearing, and loss of identity. When the brain loses input, it starts creating its own world. The gateway of the mind. Legend, then, isn't just about hearing God. It's about what happens when the human mind stares too long into silence and finds itself staring back. From haunted dolls to toxic bodies, faceless women to forgotten skeletons, these stories may seem like fiction, but they reveal something deeply human. Every legend begins with a question: what if? What if your house wasn't empty? What if your senses lied? What if fear could take form? Maybe that's why we keep retelling them, because they remind us how fragile the line is between imagination and reality. As psychologist Carl Jung once said, "The things we fear most are parts of ourselves we have not yet faced." So whether it's the girl in the mirror, the noise in the dark, or the mystery that logic can't solve, remember, every story is a reflection of the human mind trying to make sense of chaos. Which of these eerie legends stuck with you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you love exploring the strange edge between science, myth, and mystery, hit subscribe. Because next time, we're stepping even further beyond the veil.